Welcome back. The House passed the SAVE Act yesterday. The bill, which targets illegal migrants voting, requires proof of citizenship to vote in federal elections. But nearly all Democrats voted against this bill. Just 5 of the Democrats supported the bill. Democrats claim the bill is, quote, xenophobic and will make it harder for Americans to vote. Watch this.
I am not aware of a single proof of citizenship document that does not cost an individual money to get it. This is the 2024 version of the Jim Crow poll tax.
They don't want you to vote. They don't want to hear black voices, brown voices, LGBTQIA voices, young voices. This xenophobic attack that we're debating today will make it harder for Americans to vote.
It is designed to jam people up and prevent Americans from voting.
Joining me now is the Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson, and Texas Congressman Chip Roy, who introduced the SAVE Act back in May. Gentlemen, thank you so much for being here. Congratulations to you both for passing in the House. But, Mr. Speaker, I want to begin with you. You just heard what all of those Democrats said about this bill. Hakeem Jeffrey says it's going to make it harder for people to vote. What's your response?
Hakeem knows that's not true. Everything you just heard is absolutely outrageous. What they're trying to cover up is the very important fact that, as you noted, 198 House Democrats voted last night to allow illegal immigrants to cast ballots in American elections. It's already against the law, Maria. You have to be a U.S. citizen to vote in a U.S. election. But we know this is happening around the country, and we have to stop it. They don't want to stop it.
Well, how do you stop it then, Speaker? I mean, that's the problem. I mean, we have evidence of people who are illegal are already registered to vote or are trying to get registered to vote. We also have evidence of flyers at the border which say, you know, welcome to America. Don't forget to vote for Joe Biden. So clearly some people are trying to get illegals to vote in this upcoming election. Will you be able to stop it?
Well, the SAVE Act is the solution, because what this does, it's a very well-written, very clearly written piece of legislation that everybody can understand. It requires the states to prove, someone has to prove that they're a citizen to register to vote. Right now, there's no safeguard. The law is being interpreted, has been interpreted by the courts to prevent the states from requiring proof. The SAVE Act will do that, and it will make it actually easier to register to vote for people who actually are citizens. Everything the Democrats said on the floor is untrue, and they know it.
Well, look, I mean, it may be the answer, but it may not go anywhere, right, Congressman Roy? I mean, the president has been adamant he does not want voter ID. The AG, Merrick Garland, just said he's going to vow to stop any voter ID. So same question for you, Congressman Roy. What did you make of those Democrats comparing your bill to a Jim Crow poll tax?
Yeah, well, that's the only page that in the playbook that Democrats have. And I would note that of the 5 Democrats who voted for the bill, 2 of them were Hispanic South Texas Democrats. I think people are understanding, particularly Hispanic Democrats in South Texas. They're tired of the kind of things that are going on that are endangering the people because of open borders, but also endangering our elections. We passed a really strong bill. And by the way, it includes significant safeguards for citizens to be able to vote, allowing people opportunities to go forward, have government officials sign an affidavit if someone shows up and can't afford to come up with a birth certificate at that time. We have provided ample ways to ensure that the court will uphold this. Senate Democrats should pass it. But even if not, we need to make sure that across the country in all of our elections, we're working and coordinating with RNC and working with local officials to monitor and safeguard our elections and to make sure that there isn't fraud. But you can't guarantee it fully unless we pass legislation like this. That's why a Republican Party that was united. I'm so proud to work with Speaker Johnson on this. We were united. We passed a great bill. 5 Democrats joined us. The ball's in Chuck Schumer's court. Now the American people will see in broad daylight, will Democrats in the Senate stand up so that only American citizens vote in American elections?
Yeah, but you know it's going to fail in the Senate, right?
Well, I mean, we'll see. I mean, I never assume anything, but yeah, I mean, I doubt Chuck Schumer's going to want to put it on the floor. But you know what? Senator Mike Lee, the sponsor of this bill in the Senate, he'll probably make a unanimous consent request this week. They'll probably offer it as amendments. We'll see where Democrats are on this before this year is over, and we'll just keep fighting to move it forward. Elections have consequences. We need to go fight to make sure that we can win this November. Yeah. This bill is a giant step forward to do that, and we'll have to focus on our states if they refuse to do it.
I guess viewers want to know what else can be done to ensure that we, in fact, are going to get a fair election in November. And I asked the chairman of the RNC this question just a few days before the RNC convention, which kicks off on Sunday. Here's Michael Whatley with me on Sunday. Watch.
We're working on getting out the vote. Number two, we're working on making sure that we have election integrity, that we are protecting the ballot. Over 90% of the American people think that only American citizens should vote in American elections. It is illegal for illegal immigrants to vote in all 50 states. We think that everything should be done to make sure that illegals are not voting, that we have to have voter ID, and that we have to have protections on mail-in balloting. They want to invite chaos into our election cycle, and you really have to ask why. Because they cannot win on the issues. They cannot win on the policy.
Mr. Speaker, how much confidence do you have that this election will be too big to rig?
That's the phrase we've been using, and I'm very confident we're going to have a huge groundswell and a big turnout, but we do have to watch the fraud. And as Michael had noted, he's doing a great job. The RNC is really focused like a laser on this, and the state parties have as well. They're recruiting armies of lawyers to be ready in all the states. 500 in each state is the goal. They're meeting the objectives. Then you're going to have poll watchers and precinct captains, the state parties, the grassroots activists. There's a lot going on, Maria. We're going to do everything we can.
Meanwhile, President Biden is insisting that he's staying in the 2024 race. Democrat lawmakers are not so sure about that. You've got 10 congressional Democrats publicly calling on Joe Biden to step aside. Vermont's Peter Welch became the first Democrat senator to ask Joe to withdraw. Top Biden campaign officials are expected to meet with Senate Democrats later today to discuss their concerns about the president and his mental capacity. House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries seemingly distancing himself from the president, telling reporters he's considering, quote, the best possible path forward for House Democrats, and saying that the House is a separate and co-equal branch of government. What are your thoughts on those comments from Jeffries, Congressman Roy?
Well, look, I think what we're seeing out of Democrats is that they're living in the box that they created for themselves by lying to the American people now for several years, including all the people in the White House, the staff there, Democrats that are our colleagues in the House, but also notably the Vice President of the United States, all of the people who had a duty to make sure the American people knew the truth. You're seeing what the consequences of that now. It was notable that Nancy Pelosi yesterday refused to actually fully endorse and support Joe Biden and saying, hey, let's wait, let's see. They're in disarray because they know the truth. They know that the president does not have the current mental capacity to carry out the powers and duties of the office. That's why they're in a trap. But they also know that the vice president and all the people around the president have been complicit in lying to the American people and covering up this truth.
Yeah. And
it endangers the American people for a president who carries the nuclear codes and is the commander-in-chief of the armed forces. And their latest play is to say that we need a president by committee. They're coming forward and saying, don't worry about it. We have people around the president. Our founders rejected president by committee. You're supposed to have a president who's fully competent to be the commander-in-chief. Yeah. This is a disgrace, and Democrats know it, and they're now suffering the consequences of that reality.
So you've been floating the 25th Amendment. Tell us how that works. You need the cabinet to say, okay, we want to push the 25th Amendment forward, right? It's not about Congress.
Yeah, no, that's right. I mean, look, and by the way, Congress can't do it. It is the Vice President of the United States that triggers it with a majority of the cabinet that would have to come forward and do it. If they did that, and if Joe Biden argued with them and disagreed, then it would come to Congress. But the whole point of the resolution was to call them out. I filed that not to, say that we're going to trigger something. We can't. The Vice President has to do it. I filed that to just say very simply, it's very clear that the President of the United States does not have the mental acuity to do what he needs to do to carry out the powers and duties of the office. It is up to Democrats to decide what they're going to do. And if they want to pull him down as their candidate, ask me, I think the American people are right to ask, why is he sitting in the Oval Office now?
Yeah, Mr. Speaker, how do you see it? And do you believe you'll be able to get a bigger majority post-November? Right now you have a 3-seat majority in the House?
We do. We have had the smallest margin in history. We had a 1-seat margin, as you know, for about 4 months. But it's grown now. We had special elections. But here's the thing. We are very bullish about November. And here's what's important about Joe Biden. It's not just his lack of mental acuity that makes him unfit for office. Excuse me. It's his policies, of course, right? Yeah. He's weak on the border. He's weak on the economy. He's weak on the world stage. It doesn't matter who they would put into his place. They're going to run on the same failed policies. And that's why that agenda is why the American people are so animated. They're looking for answers to all the challenges they're facing because of those policies. And I think they're going to give the Republican Party a big win in November. We don't take anything for granted, Maria. We run like we're 10 points behind, but we're feeling very good. And I think we can grow the majority substantially. Well,
let me ask you about the vote expected today to hold Attorney General Merrick Garland in inherent contempt of Congress and fine him $10,000 a day that he fails to turn over the audio tapes of President Biden's interview with Special Counsel Robert Hur. The DOJ is slamming this, calling it unconstitutional, saying that it's confident its arguments will win in court. Yesterday, 4 Republicans voted with all Democrats to table and refer the resolution back to committee. It failed. Mr. Speaker, do you want this to move forward, or are you trying to stop Anna Paulina Luna from moving forward here?
No, it's moving forward, and it will pass today. And it's an extreme measure, to be sure. It's not been used a lot in history, but it's not unconstitutional. We have to be as aggressive as we can. We have to use every tool in the toolbox because this is an unprecedented situation. The Attorney General of the United States is defying a lawful congressional subpoena. All we want is the audio tape. The audio tape of Special Counsel Hur's interview of President Biden. They have been withholding it. Now we all know why, but we have to have that to do our constitutional duty. That is to make sure that the transcript of that interview matches the audio. Why is it so important? Because remember, Special Counsel Hur determined that President Biden did willfully withhold classified documents. He knowingly did it, but he couldn't be charged because he was an old man who is feeble and doesn't have a strong memory. Yeah. This is really important for Congress to review. We have to have it. They have no argument to keep it. So we've filed a lawsuit in federal court to enforce the subpoena. We've already held him in contempt. And now the inherent contempt is the last straw, the last measure. And I think it's an appropriate one here.
But there's no enforcement arm to this resolution, right?
Well, it hasn't been done before, so there's no precedent to show how to do it, but it is certainly anticipated in the Constitution, okay. And we'll see how it's enforced.
Real quick, guys, do you think that Joe Biden will be the nominee? Chip Roy?
I think the likelihood is high that he will be the nominee. He's the incumbent president, but I agree with Mike Johnson. His policies speak for themselves. The American people want to change. President Trump is the leader the country wants right now. Drive down inflation, secure the border of the United States, make our military strong again, and make the American people proud to be,
All right, final word. Speaker, you think he'll be the nominee?
50-50 chance right now. We'll see. But we'll take on anybody they put up.
Gentlemen, thank you. Very good to see you both. Speaker Mike Johnson and Congressman Chip Roy. Thank you, sirs.
Thanks.
We'll be right back.
When you can't